Can you imagine a world where China doesn't exist? Not the China we know today, no Great Wall, no unified empire, no single Chinese identity. Just 7 warring kingdoms, constantly bleeding each other dry for over 200 years. Now imagine one man, barely a teenager when he took the throne, who looked at that chaos and said, "I will end all of this, and I will rule it all." That man was Zhao, and history would remember him as Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. This is his story. Welcome to Hobate Tales. Please like and subscribe. A king born in chaos, 259 to 247 BC. Zhao didn't exactly have a fairy tale childhood. He was born in 259 BC in the state of Zhao, not even in his home kingdom of Qin, because his father, Prince Iran, was being held there as a political hostage. That was just how things worked in the Warring States period. Kingdoms traded royal children like bargaining chips. And it gets messy. There's a famous and deeply controversial story that Zhang's real father wasn't the prince at all, but a powerful merchant named Lu Buwei, who allegedly arranged for his own concubine to seduce the prince, already pregnant, as part of a long political play. Whether that story is true or court gossip designed to undermine the emperor's legacy, nobody knows for certain. But it followed him for life. His early years were spent in poverty and danger. The state of Zhao wanted him dead. He and his mother scraped by, anonymous, exposed, and vulnerable. Then his father became king of Qin. Suddenly, the forgotten boy was a prince. And when his father died just 3 years later, in 247 BC, Zhao became king of Qin. He was 13 years old. The Wars of Unification, 230 to 221 BC. For the first several years, a regent named Lu Buwei, yes, the same merchant from the rumors, and later a powerful eunuch official named Lao Ai effectively ran the kingdom. There was even a coup attempt by Lao Ai, which Zhao crushed swiftly and ruthlessly at age 22. He then removed Lu Buwei from power, banished him, and the man eventually took his own life. The young king had arrived, and now began one of the most breathtaking military campaigns in ancient history. Over the next 9 years, Zhao systematically destroyed every rival kingdom, one by one. Han fell first in 230 BC, the weakest. A warm-up. Zhao, the kingdom that had humiliated his family, fell in 228 BC. Personal. Wei 225 BC. Qin engineers flooded the capital using river water. Brutal efficiency. Chu, the largest kingdom, required 600,000 soldiers, and the genius of General Wang Jin fell in 223 BC. Yan 222 BC. Famous for the failed assassination attempt on Zhao by Jing Ku. A scene so dramatic it deserves its own video. Qi, the last to fall. 221 BC. Surrendered without a real fight. In 221 BC, for the first time in history, all of China was under one ruler. Zhao didn't just want a new title. King wasn't enough for what he had achieved. He combined the ancient titles of the most divine rulers, San Huang, the 3 sovereigns, and Wu Di, the 5 emperors, and created an entirely new title, Huángdì, 星号 Huángdì 星号 Emperor. And since he was the first, he called himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Qin. He declared that his dynasty would last 10,000 generations. It lasted 15 years. But what he built in those 15 years, that lasted forever. The Empire Builder, 221 to 210 BC. Here's what people miss about Qin Shi Huang. Yes, he was brutal, but he was also one of the most radical reformers the ancient world had ever seen. Think about what he was dealing with: 7 different kingdoms, each with their own languages and writing systems, currencies and weights, legal codes, road widths. Yes, road widths. He standardized all of it. One writing system, one currency, one set of weights and measures. Roads built to a uniform width across the entire empire so that Qin axles could roll anywhere without adjustment. This wasn't just administration, this was the creation of a civilization. He built a network of highways stretching over 6,000 kilometers. He constructed canals, He organized the empire into 36 commanderies governed by appointed officials, not hereditary lords. A radical break from the feudal past that echoes in Chinese governance even today. And then there's the wall. Qin Shi Huang didn't build the Great Wall we see in photos. That version came much later under the Ming Dynasty. But he did order the connection and extension of existing northern walls into one massive defensive structure to keep out the Xiongnu nomadic confederation. Hundreds of thousands of workers, soldiers, peasants, convicts were conscripted. Tens of thousands died building it. It was one of the most punishing infrastructure projects in human history. The dark side of the dragon. Now let's not romanticize this man. Qin Shi Huang was terrifying. He governed through legalism, the philosophy that humans are inherently selfish and can only be controlled through strict laws and harsh punishments. There was no mercy baked into the system. Punishments were collective, your family paid for your crimes. Entire clans could be executed for the transgression of one member. The burning of the books, 213 BC. He ordered the destruction of historical records and philosophical texts from rival states. Anything that could be used to challenge his rule or glorify the old kingdoms. Confucian scholars were targeted. According to historical accounts, 60 scholars were buried alive for continuing to criticize imperial policy. He was obsessed with control and obsessed with something else entirely, death, or rather not dying. The immortality obsession. The older Qin Shi Huang got, the more paranoid and desperate he became. He survived multiple assassination attempts, including one by the philosopher Zhang, who hurled a massive hammer at the wrong carriage in a convoy. He became so fearful that he slept in a different palace room every night, and anyone who revealed his location was executed. But his deepest fear wasn't assassins. It was mortality. He sent expeditions across the seas, some accounts say as far as Japan, searching for the mythical islands of the immortals and the elixir of eternal life. He consulted sorcerers and alchemists. He consumed mercury-based elixirs prescribed by court physicians who told him mercury was the key to immortality. The cruel irony? The mercury was almost certainly killing him. And then there was his tomb. While alive, he had over 700,000 workers laboring for decades on his burial complex at Mount Li. The centerpiece, discovered in 1974 by farmers digging a well, is one of the greatest archaeological finds in human history. The Terracotta Army. Over 8,000 life-sized clay soldiers, each with a unique face. Cavalry, infantry, generals, archers, all standing in battle formation, facing east, toward the conquered kingdoms, ready to protect their emperor in the afterlife. The burial complex reportedly contained rivers and seas modeled in liquid mercury, a universe replicated underground for a man who refused to accept that he had to leave this one. In 210 BC, Qin Shi Huang died on an inspection tour, far from his capital. He was 49 years old. The dynasty he said would last 10,000 generations collapsed just 4 years later, consumed by the rebellions his own brutality had sparked. And yet, the word China itself is believed by many scholars to derive from Qin, his kingdom, his name, stamped onto a civilization for eternity, the administrative structures he created, the concept of a unified Chinese state, the standardized writing that allowed a vast and linguistically diverse people to communicate and share a common culture. These things didn't die with his dynasty. They became the bones of a civilization that has endured for over 2,000 years. Qin Shi Huang was a tyrant. He was a visionary. He was a frightened man who built an immortal empire while desperately trying to escape death. He was, without question, one of the most consequential human beings who ever lived. And China, all of China, is, in many ways, still living inside the world he made. If the story moved you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe to Hobate Tales and let me know in the comments. Was Qin Shi Huang a great man? Or simply a great monster?